Hi, I'm Misa Ramirez, and this is Books on the House, and today we're talking with Shobhan Bantwal, author of The Unexpected Son, as well as numerous other books. Welcome, Shobhan.
Thank you, Misa. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, I'm very excited to have you here. You're one of my very favorite authors. I love your books, and I'm really thrilled to be featuring The Unexpected Son, your newest release.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to start by just telling us what sparked the idea for this book and tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I wanted to set something that was in two parts. Starting early in India, like in the 1970s when I was growing up and I was going to college.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also wanted to set something in the United States. So I kind of combined the two ideas and made it in two parts. So the first part of the book starts in India, and when my heroine is a teenager in college, and she gets into trouble by falling in love with the bad guy at college,
Mm-hmm.
and gets pregnant and has a stillborn child. And later on, she has a happy life later on because her parents find her a good husband. She has an arranged marriage and comes to the U.S., lives in New Jersey. But 30 years later, she gets this anonymous letter telling her that the son she thought was stillborn was not really stillborn. He was just given away in adoption by her parents on the sly. And now he's alive and he's fighting for his life. So that's how the book starts. And I thought it would be a great idea for somebody who has no clue that they have a child and a grown one at that, to find out suddenly and how that's going to affect her marriage, her other child, a lot of things that are happy in her present life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what sparked the idea.
Wow. And so how long did it take you to write this book? And you have a job that you work at as well, right?
Yes, I have a full time job and it's a pretty demanding career. I work for the government and I supervise two major statewide programs. So my time for writing is limited. So I'm one of those writers who's up at 4 o'clock in the morning trying to get a little writing done.
Wow.
I leave home at 7 o'clock, and then I come home at 4:30, and I sit at my computer again and start to write all over again. Um, but it's tough juggling two careers,
Mm-hmm.
but I try my best.
Well, and your books have been really successful, and I see them in the bookstore, and I have to comment that your covers are beautiful. I just love your covers.
Thank you. And you asked me about the covers, and they are completely designed by the publisher. I have nothing to do with them. But you also asked me about my titles and whether I come up with them. Yes, all my titles are my own.
Mm-hmm.
None of them were suggested by my editor or my agent. So I'm hoping that they'll continue to use my titles. I think the Sari Shop Widow, which was my last book, I had to change the title because my original title was Silk and Sapphires,
Mm-hmm.
and my editor thought it sounded more like a Regency romance.
Oh.
And she was right. When
Yeah.
I thought about it,
Yeah.
I gave it some thought and I said, she is absolutely right. It does sound like a Regency romance. So I decided, oh, okay, I'll change the name. And then we settled on the Sari Shop Widow. She wanted the word sari in there somewhere because she owns a sari shop. And I said, okay, let's make it the Sari Shop Widow. And that worked well.
Yeah, it's a great, great title. So how did you get your start in writing?
I call it my menopausal epiphany.
That's a good one.
Because I was 50 years old and going through hot flashes and a really bad menopause. And my husband took a job that took him to Baltimore 5 days a week. So he was home only on weekends. We were already empty nesters by then. So my evenings were my own. And instead of sitting here feeling sorry for myself because I was suffering from insomnia and hot flashes, I said, maybe I need a good hobby to take my mind off of all of that. And that's how it started as a fun hobby, and it kind of just exploded into a second career.
So when you started, did you have dreams of being published then, or it was more, I have a story, maybe I'll write it down?
That was more like it. I have a story in my mind. Let me write it down, and I was doing it just for fun. And I published some articles, some nonfiction articles in Indian American publications. Uh, they were um, they were very well received by the reading public. And then after that, I wrote short stories. On a whim, I entered some competitions, and I started winning awards and honors. So that kind of got me really fired up, and I took a course in creative writing at the local community college, and the instructor there kind of encouraged me to make my short story, which was a homework assignment for his class, into a long story. He said, this could become a novel if you really put your mind to it. And that's what really started the whole thing. I made it into a novel, and once it was all done, I started having these big dreams of getting published.
And so is that the first book that was published?
The Dowry Bride was the first book that was published, and that was the homework project.
Oh my gosh, that's a great story. And your dear teacher must be very proud of you too, and thrilled that
He is, because I sent him a copy of my first book, and he said, I groom a lot of people in my classes, but you're the first one who actually went ahead and followed your dream.
Wow, that's a really great story. So what are you working on next?
Book number 5 is called The Full Moon Bride, and that's already been submitted. That should be coming out next summer or next fall.
Okay.
Either August or September, I imagine. That's usually when they schedule my books. And it's about a young lawyer from New York City.
Okay.
So that's going to be book number 5. Now, book number 6, I don't know, because I have a 2-book contract. So I have to come up, by August 1st, I have to come up with a brief outline for book number 6. So.
And you don't have anything in mind yet?
I have something in mind. I have the idea I have in mind is a very petite young woman who falls in love with this big giant in her office.
Mm-hmm.
And he's hell-bent on finding a woman who's 6 feet tall and who's more suited to his size.
So do you ever come up with the title first? Because I love your titles, as you said. Do you come up with them first ever and then work your book around it, or is the title something that comes later?
Title comes later. The idea for the book comes first. Mm-hmm. Then come the characters. Mm-hmm. I sort of tailor my characters to the story idea. Mm-hmm. And then, somewhere when I'm into chapter 4 or 5, that's when I start to think of a working title.
So do you have a pretty standard process now for writing your books? Now that you've finished your 5th and you're moving on to your 6th, is it easier now than it was the first time around?
Not really. It's getting tougher because, if people liked your first and your second book, they kind of expect you to write a decent book. And I always worry that, this one's going to bomb, that somebody's going to hate it, or everybody's going to hate it. So, you're trying to really compete with your own books. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you know how that feels, because Lola was great. The first book was great. And so was the second. So now that you're going to be writing another series, do you feel the same way?
Yeah. I always thought maybe it would get easier, but I really don't think it does. I do think it gets harder. And I don't feel like I'm any clearer on the process either. I don't have, first you do this, then you do this, then you do that, and you're good to go. It's still a struggle.
Yeah, I'm a writer who writes by the seat of her pants. Yeah. I don't have a clear outline. I'm not regimented. I don't have anything in place that tells me where I'm going. Yeah. I have no map. I have no compass. I don't have a GPS. I just kind of muddle my way through the whole thing. And when 350 pages are over, it's a big sigh of relief, like I have something.
Yes, yeah, I hear you. Well, I'm so glad to feature you, and you and I are just those friends that met online just through the writing community, and I think that is such a blessing, and I'm so glad to be your friend and to support your writing career.
Thank you. I appreciate the support. You've been great. You've given me so much coverage. You've given me so much free promo, so I really appreciate it. And I love your books.
Thank you.
And I talk about them, especially to my Hispanic friends who might like the cultural elements in that. So, keep up the good work, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and you too, Shobhan.